The United States Soccer Federation and Mauricio Pochettino have just released the roster for the March camp call-ups. And guys, this is just about as close to the World Cup roster as we're going to get. This is the last camp before the roster is announced in May. The official release date for the World Cup roster is May 26th. I find it very hard to believe that more than one or two players, maybe three due to injury, that are not on this roster will be in the roster come May. With that being said, guys, welcome back to the T26 channel, where we talk about all things related to the U.S. men's national team. And today we are going to break down the 27-man roster that Mauricio Pochettino has called into the March camp. And guys, I emphasize that he called in 27 players because when it comes time for the World Cup, you're only allowed to bring a 26-man roster. And that means an extra player from this camp has got to go. So as we get into it and go through position by position, I'll tell you my thoughts because there are some notable names that are included and some notable names that have been excluded, mostly due to injury. And there are a few surprises here and a few player battles that I think we really need to keep an eye on. Before we get into all of that, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss anything leading into the 2026 World Cup. I'm going to continue to have updates on our players, performances, injuries, anything that you can imagine as we lead into June. As we usually do, we're going to start all the way in the back and talk about our goalkeepers. And Mauricio Pochettino has chosen to bring four to this camp. And those four are Chris Brady of the Chicago Fire, Roman Celentano of FC Cincinnati, Matt Freese of New York City FC, and Matt Turner from the New England Revolution. Welcome back, Matt Turner. It's been quite some time since we've seen him called in, and this is now our only goalkeeper with World Cup experience, and he is not our out-and-out starter. That position belongs to Matt Freese, and I believe it's his to lose. Moving one level up the field, we have our defenders, starting with Max Arston of the Columbus Crew, Alex Freeman of Villarreal, Mark McKenzie of Toulouse, Tim Ream from Charlotte FC, Chris Richards of Crystal Palace, Anthony Robinson from Fulham, Miles Robinson from FC Cincinnati, Joe Scally of Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Austin Trusty of Celtic. Moving into our midfield, we have Sebastian Berhalter of the Vancouver Whitecaps, Johnny Cardoso of Atletico Madrid, Weston McKennie of Juventus, Aidan Morris from Middlesbrough, Gio Reyna from Borussia Mönchengladbach, Christian Roldan from the Seattle Sounders, Tanner Tessman from Olympic Lyon, and Malik Tillman from Bayer Leverkusen. And moving into our forwards, we have Brendan Aronson from Leeds, our little Brendan, always a welcome choice, Patrick Agyemang from Derby County, Fuller and Balogun from Monaco, Ricardo Pepi from PSV, soon to be Fulham. His move was officially announced by Fabrizio Romano today for about 36 million euros. And that move, I think it's a good thing. It won't be happening until after the season ends, and he gets a fresh start next year with Fulham. After Ricardo Pepi, we have Christian Pulisic from AC Milan and Tim Weah from Olympic Marseille. So guys, now that we've gone through the entire 27-man roster that Mauricio Pochettino and his staff called in, let's take a little bit more of a deep dive into each position, starting with our goalkeepers. Again, he elected to bring four to this camp, and I'm honestly not too sure why, because we have our starter in Matt Freese. Matt Turner is likely the backup, even though he hasn't featured in camp recently. I think that was realistically just to instill the confidence in Matt Freese that he is our guy. He's also brought Chris Brady for the third or fourth camp out of 4 or 5 opportunities. And then for some reason, we have Roman Celentano of FC Cincinnati. Celentano's featured a little bit here and there, but he's not been a prominent figure. And when it comes to the World Cup, you're traditionally not bringing any more than 3 goalkeepers. And if you have to have more than 2 play, you're in trouble. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a game day roster not include Roman Celentano. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him not on that list in May. Moving into our defenders, there's 2 notable names that aren't here. First and foremost is Serginho Dest of PSV. And unfortunately, he went down with a recent hamstring injury, and he's not going to be back until later in the season. So rest up, Serginho. We are excited to see you. And if he makes a full recovery and is healthy in time for that World Cup roster release, which all signs point to, yes, he will be, I fully expect him to be on the roster come May 26th. The other name that is not here that has been generating a lot of buzz recently is Noah Kai Banks of Augsburg. And he is a 19-year-old center back who is consistently performing at a high level in the Bundesliga. He is a dual national, German American, and recently, very recently, he was all in on the US men's national team. But I believe that some of his hype and some of his buzz based around his performances has caught the attention of the German Federation. And now he's having second thoughts. And I don't blame him. If he wants to play for Germany and that's where his heart is, he should do that. He was born in the US, but he grew up in Germany. So I understand he may be feeling more German than American, but he's come up through the US youth system, and losing him would be very significant for us, as he is by far our best center back prospect. At just 19 years old, he's making waves in the Bundesliga. And honestly, we're going to miss that because that's going to leave a big gap going into the 2030 cycle. There's a good chance he could feature prominently for us this summer and well beyond. He's just 19, and center backs typically develop late. The ceiling is very high for this young man. I would love to see him here with the U.S. men's national team. Only time will tell. Looking into our inclusions, we have Joe Scally and Austin Trusty. These two are a little bit more on that surprise inclusion list. Scally, because he's really been out of favor with Mauricio Pochettino since last March's Nations League. And when he's had that opportunity, he hasn't necessarily grabbed hold of it either. I believe that Scally is included because Dest is out. I would not be surprised if Scally doesn't see any minutes in this camp either, as we know that Pochettino has used Alex Freeman as a right wing back and a right center back. So I would expect him to feature there, as well as Tim Weah, who has primarily been a wing back for his club. And we know that Weah can play that wing back role at a very high level, especially because he doesn't necessarily fit that dual 10 role that we now employ instead of a true winger. The other somewhat surprise inclusion is Austin Trusty of Celtic. And Trusty, he's only really featured one time for Mauricio Pochettino where he's performed well. And that was in our previous camp where we played Paraguay and Uruguay. I think that Trusty has a good chance to impress again, as Tim Ream is our only other left-footed center back. So if Tim Ream goes down, we don't have a left-footed center back. Trusty is that guy. He is consistently on the ball with Celtic, and he's consistently looking sharp. No, the Scottish Premiership is not the highest level, but we need a guy who can play on the ball and add that width to the field by receiving it with his outside foot. Tim Ream, he's a solid guy for us. He is a leader. He's a good passer of the ball, but let's face it, he's aging. We need to find somebody to fill his shoes. Austin Trusty may be able to do that, especially because he meets that left-footed criteria and is somewhat calm on the ball. Moving into our midfielders, we have two, I don't want to call them surprise inclusions, but some inclusions that I think not everybody would expect. And that would be Aidan Morris and Gio Reyna. Aidan Morris, I believe he's earned the call-up. He's been fantastic for Middlesbrough, monumental for Middlesbrough, instrumental, whatever adjective you want to use, he's been it. He has them solidly in the second position in the championship and is likely going to get promoted to the Premier League at the end of the season. So he has 100% earned this call-up, but I think that he might be the one who's filling in for an injured Tyler Adams. Gio Reyna is another one who may be a surprise to some people, is definitely a little volatile, but in my opinion, he needs to be here. He brings a unique skill set, a vision, calmness, and quality on the ball that nobody else has, and he can pick a pass that nobody else in our lineup really can. No, he's not playing for his club, but he's always come in and performed for the national team. He only had a handful of minutes before he was called in November. And look what he did there. He got on the score sheet. He looked good. He controlled the game. Hopefully, this camp can be a little bit of a reset for him, just like it used to be for Christian Pulisic when he wasn't playing at Chelsea. Call him into the national team camp, get him some minutes, get confidence going, get him comfortable, and improve that sharpness on the ball. I believe Gio can do that, and he's going to lock in his spot here. The notable exclusion from this midfielder section, maybe our forward section, depending on how you want to categorize him, is Diego Luna, who, granted, he is just coming back from an injury, but he played 20 minutes over the weekend with his club, Real Salt Lake. And again, by comparison, he and Gio Reyna may be competing for one of those dual 10 roles. Scratch that. It's not a maybe situation. They both are, potentially as a depth piece behind Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Malik Tillman. They're in big competition here. Gio's only played 26 minutes since the beginning of the calendar year. Diego Luna's only played 20 for his club since the MLS season started, but Gio's here, Luna's not. I don't know exactly what that tells us about where Mauricio Pochettino's head is at, but I do know that we've seen Gio perform against all levels of competition, get on the score sheet, whether it's goals or assists, in high-stakes games in CONCACAF and outside of it in our most recent friendlies. Counterpoint to Diego Luna, he's done well and looked good against much lesser competition over the summer in the Gold Cup, right? He balled out against Guatemala, but kind of disappeared when we had to play bigger matches, and that may be sticking in Pochettino's mind. So we have Gio Reyna, we have Aiden Morris, we don't have Tyler Adams due to an injury, and we don't have Diego Luna, per what I'm going to call coach's choice. Now, moving into our forwards, we have a lot of our firepower here, but not all of it. We have one, I would say, surprise inclusion and one player missing. They're like for like, and that is Haji Wright and Patrick Ajman. Haji Wright has been, again, doing very well in the championship. He is leading his club to promotion. They currently sit top of the table in the championship and will get promoted to the Premier League at the end of the season. Patrick Ajman is a little bit lower in the table. He caught a good hot streak with Derby County and, again, was making his case. Personally, I don't think he's quite at the U.S. men's national team level, but he was getting on the end of crosses and had, I think, 10 goals, 9 of them with his head, something like that. So he's made a push, and yeah, he's probably our fourth string striker right now, and one injury brings him into the roster. I think if Haji is fully healthy, he's in and Ajman's out. But here we are. And he does, in fact, bring a different look. I think that if we need a goal late in the game and we need a different look and we're not combining well against a high-quality opponent like Belgium or Portugal, right? They are going to be harder to break down. They're not going to bunker. They're going to be much tougher to pass through and break down. Those crosses may become valuable. So does Patrick Ajman's head. So is this exactly perfect? No. They're not exactly like for like either, but they do compete. I would fully expect Balogun to start both games. I would expect Ricardo Pepi to come in and get minutes off the bench, maybe provide a different look. And Ajman is a distant third here. I think we need to test our top two against high-quality competition in Portugal and Belgium. So that's how I think our roster is really breaking down, and some of the players who were notably left off or notably included here. One more final big inclusion and last chance for a player is going to be Johnny Cardoso of Atletico Madrid. I think that, unfortunately for Johnny, he has never quite put it together for the U.S. men's national team. And he's playing at a really big club, a top 3 club in Spain, a continuous Champions League contender. And he's just not been able to put it together when he's got the U.S. men's national team crest on. He's had some bad luck with injuries since the Gold Cup. He's missed out on camps. And this is his last opportunity to show Mauricio Pochettino that he can bring quality to the field and he can be a good locker room guy. I don't know right now if he performs well this camp that he necessarily breaks into our starting 11, but I would expect him to be able to get significant minutes if he starts to build on performance after performance. We see it week in and week out with his club. Johnny can play at a high level. It hasn't happened with the U.S. men's national team yet. We need to persist on him, just as we did Malik Tillman. But if he doesn't do it now, I mean, it's unfortunate for him, but that's okay. Maybe his time is the 2030 cycle. Again, Johnny's not an old player. He's not phasing out anytime soon. He has time to find his footing on the international stage. I would love to see him now. I would love for him to make that impact because we see the quality that he can bring with his club. I want to see it with U.S. men's national team, but if he doesn't show up this camp, I worry that it's over for him. He's definitely in steep competition with guys like Aiden Morris, Sebastian Berhalter, Christian Roldan. I genuinely believe that. If we look at the rest of our midfield, Tyler Adams is a lock. Tanner Tessman is a lock. Weston McKennie is a lock. Malik Tillman, lock. So there's only so many positions up for grabs. Yes, it's a great thing that we're deep. Could we be potentially holding off one of our higher ceiling players? Maybe, but some guys can't put it together for the national team, and some guys can only put it together for the national team. Gio Reyna. So we'll see. But I'm excited about this lineup. Again, outside of a couple of injuries, this is just about as good as it gets, and it's starting to feel like the World Cup is here. Again, guys, we're at the end of March. These two friendlies, they happen on the 28th and the 31st, and then our next gathering is May 31st after the World Cup roster has been announced. We are 2 short months away from the World Cup roster being announced. It is absolutely go time for the U.S. men's national team. I'm really excited to see how we play against top-level competition in Belgium and Portugal. I can't wait. I'm almost speechless here. So, guys, leave a like and a comment in the comment section down below, letting me know your thoughts on the roster. Who do you think is in solely because of injury? And who do you think can earn their way in and solidify their spot in this round of matches? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.